In the mid-1980s, Dr. Vincent Filitti in the California city of San Diego had been commissioned by the nonprofit medical provider Kaiser to look into the fastest growing driver of their costs, obesity. Nothing they were trying was working, so he was given a blank sheet of paper. Start from scratch, they said. Total blue sky thinking. Figure out what we can do to deal with this. And so the patients began to come. But what he was going to learn from them led, in fact, to a major breakthrough in a very different area: how we think about depression and anxiety. As he tried to scrape away all assumptions that surrounded obesity, Vincent learned about a new diet plan based on a simple thought. It asked, what if these severely overweight people simply stopped eating and lived off the fat stores they've built up in their bodies until they were down to a normal weight? What would happen then? In the news, curiously, there had recently been an experiment in which this was tried. 8,000 miles away, for somewhat strange reasons, for years in Northern Ireland, if you were put in jail for being part of the Irish Republican armies, you were classed as a political prisoner. That meant you were treated differently from people who commit, let's say, bank robberies. You were allowed to wear your own clothes, and you didn't have to perform the same work as other inmates. The British government decided to shut down the distinction, and they argued that the prisoners were simply common criminals and shouldn't get this different treatment anymore. So the prisoners decided to protest by going on a hunger strike. They began slowly to waste away. So the designers of this new diet proposal looked into the medical evidence about these Northern Ireland hunger strikes to find out what killed them. It turns out that the first problem they faced was a lack of potassium and magnesium. Without them, your heart stops beating properly. The radical dieters thought, what if you give people supplements of potassium and magnesium? Then that doesn't happen. If you have enough fat on you, you get a few more months more to live until a protein deficiency kills you. What if you also give people the supplements that will prevent that? Then it turns out you get a year to live, provided there is enough fat. Then you'll die from a lack of vitamin C, scurvy, or other deficiencies. Okay, what if you give people supplements for that too? Then it looks as though you'll stay alive. Vincent discovered in the medical literature and health, and you lose 300 pounds a year. Then you can start eating again at a healthy level. All of this suggested that in theory, even the most obese person would be down to a normal weight within a manageable time. The patients coming to him were ready to try anything. So, under careful monitoring, with lots of supervision, they began this program. And as the months passed, it worked. The patients were shedding weight. They were not getting sick. In fact, they were returning to health. People who had been rendered disabled by constant eating started to see their bodies transform in front of them. Their friends and relatives applauded. People who know them were amazed. Vincent believed he might have found the solution to extreme overweight. And then something happened that Vincent never expected. The medical team and all their friends expected these people who had been restored to health to react with joy. Except they didn't. The people who did best and lost the most weight were often thrown into a brutal depression, or panic, or rage. Some of them became suicidal. Without their bulk, they felt they couldn't cope. They felt unbelievably vulnerable. They often fled the program, gorged on fast food, and put their weight back on very fast. Vincent was baffled. They were fleeing from a healthy body they now know they could achieve, toward an unhealthy body they know would kill them. Why? That's why he did something no scientist in this field had done with really obese people before. He stopped telling them what to do and started listening to them instead. He called in the people who had panicked when they started to shed the pounds and asked them, what happened when you lost weight? How did you feel? There was one 28-year-old woman who we'll call Susan. In 51 weeks, Vincent had taken Susan down from 408 pounds to 132 pounds. It looked like he had saved her life. Then, quite suddenly, for no reason anyone could see, she put on 37 pounds in the space of 3 weeks. Before long, she was back above 400 pounds. So Vincent asked her gently what had changed when she started to lose weight. It seemed mysterious to both of them. There was, she said eventually, one thing. When she was very obese, men never hit on, but when she got down to a healthy weight, one day she was propositioned by a man, a colleague who she had happened to know was married. She fled and right away began to eat compulsively, and she couldn't stop. This was when Vincent thought to ask a question he hadn't asked his patients before. When did you start to put on weight? If it was, say, when you were 13 or when you went to college, why then, and not a year before or a year after? Susan thought about the question. She had started to put on weight when she was 11 years old. She said, so he asked, was there anything else that happened in your life when you were 11? Well, Susan replied that was when my grandfather sexually assaulted me. Vincent began to ask all his patients these three simple questions. How did you feel when you lose weight? When in your life did you start to put on weight? What else happened around that time? As he spoke to the 183 people on the program, he started to notice some patterns. One woman started to rapidly put on weight when she was 23. What happened then? She was sexually assaulted. She looked at the ground after she confessed this and said softly, overweight is overlooked. That's the way I need to be. It seemed every other person Vincent was asking was acknowledging such a history. He kept thinking, it can't be. People would know if this was true. Somebody would have told me. Isn't that what medical school is for? When 5 of his colleagues came in to conduct further interviews, it turned out some 55% of the patients in the program had been sexually abused, far more than people in the wider population, and even more, including most of the men, had had severely traumatic childhoods. Many of these women had been making themselves obese for an unconscious reason, to protect themselves from the attention of men, who they believed would hurt them. Being very fat stops most men from looking at you that way. It works. It was when he was listening to another grueling account of sexual abuse that it hit Vincent. He told me later, what we had perceived as the problem, major obesity, was in fact very frequently the solution to problems that the rest of us know nothing about. Vincent began to wonder if the anti-obesity programs, including his own, had been doing it all wrong. By, for example, giving out nutritional advice. Obese people didn't need to be told what to eat. They know the nutritional advice better than he did. They needed someone to understand why they ate. After meeting a person who had been raped, he said, I thought with a tremendously clear insight that sending this woman to see a dietitian to learn how to eat right would be grotesque. Far from teaching the obese people, he realized they were the people who could teach him what was really going on. So he gathered the patients in groups of around 15 and asked them, why do you think people get fat? Not how. How is obvious. I'm asking why. What are the benefits? Encouraged to think about it for the first time, they told him the answers came in 3 different categories. The first was that it is sexually protective. Men are less interested in you, so you are safer. The second was that it is physically protective. For example, in the program there were 2 prison guards who lost between 100 and 150 pounds each. Suddenly, as they shed their bulk, they felt much more vulnerable among prisoners. They could be more easily beaten up. To walk through those cell blocks with confidence, they explained they needed to be the size of a refrigerator. And the third category was that it reduced people's expectations of them. You apply for a job weighing 400 pounds, people assume you're stupid and lazy. Vincent said, if you've been badly hurt by the world and sexual abuse is not the only way this can happen, you often want to retreat. Putting on a lot of weight is, paradoxically, a way of becoming invincible to a lot of humanity. When you look at a house burning down, the most obvious manifestation is the huge smoke billowing out. He said, it would be easy then to think that the smoke is the problem, and if you deal with the smoke, you've solved it. But thank God that the fire departments understand that the piece that you treat is the piece you don't see, the flames inside, not the smoke billowing out. Otherwise, House fires would be treated by bringing big fans to blow the smoke away, and that would make the house burn down faster. Obesity, he realized, isn't the fire, it's the